Sirens, Slammers, and Service, a podcast for female first responders by female first responders. My name is Nikki Clucci, and I will be your host. As a former correctional officer in Alberta for almost 2 decades and the founder of Blue Line Fitness Testing, which provides law enforcement fitness testing and first responder wellness workshops, I started this podcast as a way for female first responders to share the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of their daily work. I want to showcase the unique perspectives, skill sets, and personalities that women bring to a first responder career and share their stories. So get ready to laugh your ass off, learn a whole bunch, and be inspired by some pretty badass women. Let's go. My very good friends, Sheila Farrell. Sheila and I have played rugby together for many moons. We have shared the pitch and we have faced off on the pitch against each other. And we could talk literally all day long. So I'm so excited to introduce her. Sheila is a paramedic here in Edmonton, and she has been a paramedic for 15 years. That doesn't make her old, though, let me tell you. So welcome, Sheila. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to have you on. I literally, when I was thinking about this podcast, you were the first person that I wanted to get on, just because you have such an amazing story and I love chatting to you about it. So let's get right into it, because I want to get as much goodness of you into this podcast as we possibly can. Tell me about being a paramedic. Tell me about what kind of led you into this job, your journey through your career. I want to hear some funny stories, because I know you got some.
I got a few.
And yeah, let's get into it. This podcast, that's what this podcast is all about. It's about sharing the journey of female first responders through our careers, any of our trials, our tribulations, our triumphs, things like that. I just want our listeners out there to know these badass women that are in these careers. So let's get right into it. Tell me, what led you into this career?
So this one's kind of funny. Do you remember the show Third Watch?
Yeah.
I loved that show growing up.
Okay.
And yeah, because it showed paramedics, it showed fire, and it showed police.
Yeah.
And it actually showed paramedics. It didn't actually was not just police fire. It actually showed EMS and what they do. Of course, it's a TV show. They didn't make it as real. A little bit of
drama.
Yeah, exactly. So I was obsessed with that show, and I loved it so much. And I just was like fixated on the paramedic role. I'm like, I didn't really care about fire too much. And like, I always knew about police because my family's police, but I was just like, oh, I like this. This is cool. And so that show stopped, I think, in like 2003. And I think I was in grade 9. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a paramedic. So all through high school, I was like, I'm going to be a paramedic. So I had to figure out how to do all that. But back then, it was really difficult to figure out how to become a paramedic. It wasn't just like go online, because one, like internet sucked back then. It wasn't just like pull out your smartphone, boop, 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 and
the dial-up tone for us. Yeah.
Yeah. You get off the phone. Get off the phone. I want to use the internet.
Yeah.
So it was very, very difficult to figure out what I need to do and all of the qualifications for each step.
Well, there was only a few schools that you could go to, right?
Yeah. Okay. There was only like Nate was the big one. There's a couple private schools within Edmonton that you can go to, and then like SAIT for Calgary. Mm-hmm. And then there's a couple like out of town places you can go to as well. Right. Again, very private.
And you grew up here in Edmonton, so you were kind of familiar with Edmonton. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So one of my best friends growing up, her mom was on the volunteer fire service in Beaumont, where I grew up.
Nice.
And so I started asking her questions like, how do I become a paramedic, and blah, 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 blah. And like just trying to figure this all stuff out as I'm about to graduate. And she's like, well, you should get on the volunteer fire department. And your first step is to get your emergency medical responder, because this was a requirement. You have to have this before you can go up the ladder. And I had no idea what that is. Didn't know anything about it. Very clueless. So once I got on the fire department, I was 6 months out of high school, I got hired on as a volunteer firefighter.
That's awesome. Just the pup in the firehouse, eh?
Yeah. Just this little 18-year-old girl that I don't know anything. I'm a small town kid.
Yes.
But they saw something in me that they're like, nope, we'll take you.
Awesome.
And I got my EMR done while I was volunteering a lot of my time to get as much experience as I could possibly get. And once I got that done, I did it part-time through Nate.
Okay.
You can take it full-time, you can take it part-time. Full-time is like a 3-week course. There you just learn how to do an assessment. So you're not really treating patients. Well, back then it was very just an assessment. I think now EMRs can do a little bit more than I could have. And so you're just learning how to do a head-to-toe assessment.
And you're always technically working with somebody that is higher certified when you're at that level.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. But as an EMR, you can only really get hired in 2 areas. Camps up north. That's it. You're the cheapest person they can pay for. You have no scope of practice, but companies will pay for you because you're the cheapest one. Yeah. So you're working out of town a lot and doing the camp stuff, which did not sound appealing to me. No. So I had a lieutenant on the fire department who was also an advanced care paramedic within Edmonton, and I was bugging him. Job in EMS, like, what do I do? How do I get a job? And he's like, well, try for inter-hospital ambulance services. So this is back before AHS took over. It was city owned and private owned. Okay. And he's like, EMRs get hired there. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Like, who do I contact? Gave me the number. I called, got an interview, and got hired a year out of high school. So I was 19, got hired for the city as an EMR to do transfers. So you aren't going to do emerge calls, you're doing transfers, which is very, very important in EMS world and hospital world. You need to be able to transfer patients to different hospitals because each hospital has different procedures that have to get done. And so I was like, sweet, got my foot in the door and started working there right away and decided to go get my EMT, which is now called the Primary Care Paramedic Program. They switched our names a few years ago. Which is very confusing for a lot of us. Like, I'm old school, so it's EMT in my world. Yeah. That is like applying for post-secondary. You can't just sign up and you're in. You have to apply for it. And
do they take your grade? They take your grades from high school into consideration?
Kind of. Okay. It's not a big deal. Okay. For the PCP program. But it's about a year long. You do interviews, certain schools will do an interview with a lawyer, or you do one with the owner, and then you do aptitude tests, and you do a written like EMT test as well to see where you're at for knowledge. Yeah. Thankfully I got it. It was awesome. I completed that. It took me about a year to complete.
And you were doing that full-time as well, or you were doing that part-time?
I was doing that part-time actually. So it was every I think Monday, Friday nights, and every weekend. Right. So I was busy for a whole year of getting this new scope of practice done where I can actually start treating patients. So you have about 10 to 12 drugs you can give as a PCP. Nothing too crazy. Like you can give puffers, a neb, basically the same thing as a puffer, just a different. You can give like sugar, you can give oxygen, stuff like that. So where it's like, okay, you need this, I can do this, but you're really sick. I need someone at a higher scope of practice to come give me a hand. Right. And that's where the advanced care paramedic comes in, which we used to call it, that was the paramedic. Now it's called advanced care. So ACP.
Okay, gotcha.
We have a lot of abbreviations for everything. Yes. Medical terminology is way too much.
I think, I think any first responder, that's how we communicate is in acronyms and then in 10 code. And then, and then you have to adjust your speech when you're talking to civilians and you're just like, 10, no. Yes. Okay. I can do that.
It's if we're chit chatting at the pitch, and we have a conversation, we go right into that way of talking, and then everyone stares at us like, what are you two talking about right now?
They totally do. Yeah.
We're like, don't worry about it.
We know what we're saying.
It's so funny.
Totally true.
So I worked for the transfer side for about 8 years as a PCP, because then AHS kind of took over all of EMS. So took over transfer sides, merge sides. So it was we didn't know what was going to happen. We kind of called it the takeover. It was a big deal. Back in 2010, and what to do. So a lot of us just stayed where you were, trying to figure out. Some people jumped ship and went to other places. I just stayed where I was. Unfortunately, I got really sick for a few years there, so I couldn't really go anywhere. I was off work and had to figure all that stuff out. So 8 years. Nothing. Weird. But I also hit my first time being burnt out around that. And that's kind of what we get told a lot. I think same for your career as well.
For sure.
You hit about that 7-8 year mark.
Yeah, we call it the 7-year itch. Yeah, there's a 7-year slump.
Exactly. Yep. So I was getting a little unhappy with
Mhm.
my career choice. But I had no other options. Like I didn't go to post-secondary for anything else. This is what I chose.
Yeah.
So I wasn't too sure what to do. And so I had to do a lot of internal battle. Well, I'm not happy, so
Mhm.
I can't do this the rest of my life. Or you become that bitter medic that no one wants to work with.
Yeah, and
And
you're tied by the paycheck because now
yeah,
you've committed to a lifestyle based on the paycheck that you're making,
yep,
based on being able to pick up overtime when you need
yep,
it and you want to work those hours, you want to take that extra vacation or you want to buy that extra thing, you just pick up a couple
yeah,
shifts of OT, but then the more you work, the more bitter you get. Yep,
yeah.
I know that
Yeah,
cycle. I know that
vicious
cycle
cycle, a
well.
vicious cycle.
Yep.
And you were not 18 anymore. Like
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
living with mom and dad. That you're not.
You have
You have
bills.
your own house. You have where you're
Yeah.
renting an apartment. Like you just can't be like, oh, I'll quit this and just carry on to something else.
I'm going to travel the
Um,
world. No, you're not. You got to pay the goddamn mortgage.
exactly. You gotta go get food, man. You
Yeah.
gotta go fill the tank. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So it's an interesting when that happens, it sucks. And back then, as you probably know as well, there wasn't a lot of help for any
No.
time you were stressed out. It
No.
was, well, dig deep, move on, like
Suck it
you're
up.
fine, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah. There was
Yep.
a lot of that back then. So it
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of help, not a lot of support back then. So you had to figure it out on your own what to
Yeah.
do. So I was actually looking to be EPS. I
Mhm.
was gonna go police route.
Yep.
Well, family's police. I was like, oh, just join the family. Just
Yeah.
get into that. So I looked into it, did ride-alongs with EPS, and I was pretty gung ho about it. Got back into fitness requirements and did everything by the book and was good. I was a good
Yeah.
kid. And
Yes.
so I switched divisions and started working for Emerge side of BMS to deal with more of the unique people
Yes. Good.
on
Good.
this
Very
side.
politically correct.
Thank you. Thank you. I have other terms I could use,
Yeah.
but I think everyone
Yes.
will know which ones I want.
Yes. Yes. Everybody that's
So I
listening,
wanted,
at least.
yeah, yeah. I wanted to see if I can actually deal with those clientele, if
Mhm.
I can actually handle it and not get too angry.
You know what I love?
And
I love the fact that you did that before because I find there's a lot of people that jump right into this that
yeah,
have never even seen that side of their city that they live in or the place that they live
yeah,
in. And they dive in deep and then they realize way too late that it is way harder than they
yeah.
think it is. And it challenges your own morals and your own ethics and your
Oh
own belief
yes,
system. And it is like, I love the fact that you took it upon yourself to try that, to test it out first before
yeah,
jumping right in, because
yeah,
there's a lot of people that get into a law enforcement career who bail out within the first 6 months, within the first year, because they go,
yeah,
holy shit, I didn't realize it was all day, every day dealing with these people who
yeah.
are this traumatized and this hurt and this addicted
Lash
and that
out.
have
Yeah,
this many mental health issues for sure. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yes. So yeah, I switched divisions, and right when I did that, I was like, holy crap, this is why I got into this career. This is
Yes.
why, like, there was just a big difference between the two divisions. Because on the transfer side, you're busy all day, like,
Yeah.
and you don't see anybody because you're constantly. Second you finish a transfer, you get dinged for another one. So you
Yeah.
never see your coworkers. You just see your partner, which is like great if you get along with your partner, but not so much if you don't get along. Sometimes personalities don't mesh.
No, and you're stuck in an ambulance with them all damn day.
Yeah, yeah. So like it's interesting. So you don't have that camaraderie as much on the
Mhm.
merch side where you do run into each other because you need backup or you're at the stations together because you wait for an emerge call to come in. So
Mhm.
sometimes you were at the station with two crews and you got to get to know each other. And if you're both there and say the second crew that got there got dinged for a call, but then another crew was there first, you'd be like, no, no, guys, we were here first. We'll take that call. You guys
Mhm.
relax. So
Yeah.
there was a lot of that. I'm like, oh, this is what I've been missing.
Yeah.
Is this? And like,
Mhm.
yes, I when I switched over, everyone always asked me, like, what is the biggest difference have you noticed? And like, do you like being over here? And I always said, like, because a lot of people like make fun of the transfer side because it's not high acuity. It's very mind numbing. You're just going to point A to point B for a test.
Mhm.
So I was like, well, 90% of my patients at the transfer side need an ambulance because either they're wheelchair bounded, they can't walk, or they have attachments like antibiotics are running, stuff like that, or they're
Yeah.
intubated, stuff like that. So they actually need us.
Yeah.
And then on emerge side, maybe like 30% of the people that call us actually need us.
You're like, we're just a luxury cab
Yeah.
ride to the hospital
Yeah.
is what we are.
Yeah, well, I've had that conversation. I'm not a taxi, bud. I have to
Yeah.
say that to so many people. Well, can you just drive
If
me
you would
here?
like an
Nope.
Uber, bring it up on your phone, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
Yeah.
But that was what I needed. I needed that switch.
Yeah.
And there I still had to make that decision. Do I want to do this for the rest of my life? This is going to be my career.
Yeah.
And so with that decision, I decided to, let's go back to school and get a higher scope of practice so I can do more at my job.
Love it.
And I talked to my brother quite a bit. He's EPS.
Mhm.
And I had a good conversation about, do I leave and come join EPS or do I stay as a paramedic?
Mhm.
And yeah, he was big brother kind of conversation too, of course.
That's
Checking on
awesome.
little sister, of course. And he said some of the things that I'm gonna have to go through, being a female. He
Mhm.
was worried about that, and also
Yep.
being gay as well. He was worried of stuff like
Yep.
that. And I kind of just told him like, well, it's my life. Like I've gone through a lot of things with being a lesbian and being a female in a uniform.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
every female has gone through that. Even
Mhm.
even though we've gotten better throughout the years, but we all
Yeah.
go through some issue
Yeah.
with that.
Well, and again, and I'm glad you brought it up. I totally didn't even, because it's just who you are. It doesn't even
Yeah.
phase, like it doesn't even, I don't even
Right.
think about you being a lesbian. But yeah, being
Yeah.
a female in uniform, and then add on top of it being lesbian, and quite you own your lesbianism with it, which I love, right?
It is.
So
Yeah.
it's not like it's hidden that you are gay, which
Nope.
makes it much more challenging, because then you're facing not only the stereotypes of the clients that you're picking up, but of your coworkers as well, who can openly see that you are gay and will preset judge and preset expectations on you. So yeah, for sure. I mean, that's amazing that your brother recognized that though too, and really kind of spoke to that.
Yeah, he was worried. He's being a big brother.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, thank you. And I was like, yeah, I have to go through that even at my own job.
Mhm.
But I'm like, it's just how you handle it. That's what builds up your character.
Yeah.
So had that in mind. And then I don't know what happened. One day I was like, you know what? I really like that my brother knows that there's paramedics like me out there that will do anything to save a police officer. Anyone that a correctional officer, sheriff, peace officer will do anything to go save them. I don't care if there's active fire or like there's gunshots, anything, I'm gonna go save them.
Yeah.
And I like that feeling. And I like that there's police officers out there that will do anything to save a paramedic.
Yeah.
So that's what made me stay in EMS. I was like, no, I'm gonna fight for, basically, I feel like we're the underdog for first responders. Like no one really knows what we do. They're always shocked when I go to a call. Oh, you can do that? I'm like, yeah, I went to school to be able to treat you.
Didn't just jump in this ambulance and steal it.
Yeah. Like I had to go to school to do this. And so like because like it's only in the late 1970s to like early 80s was when EMS actually came to Edmonton. Like,
really?
It was, we're very young compared to everybody else. Yeah.
Look at us getting a history lesson today. I love it.
Right? It actually came from the military. That's where EMS actually started. It was from the military.
I did not know that.
To get soldiers out, they're like, oh, we need someone that can just like grab injured soldiers out. And then they're like, oh, maybe we can start treating as we're getting them to our stationary hospital that we've made or something like that, where the nurses are and stuff like that. So that's where EMS actually initially came from, was from the military.
Amazing.
And they realized we can have that in your hometown as well.
Yeah.
So then of course, a lot of legal stuff had to happen and qualifications and how do we teach this? Like what should we allow EMS to have?
Yeah. What is their scope of practice? Yeah.
Exactly. And then, so that's why I decided to go back to school to do more. And I just finished. So I just got to write my license exam in August, and then
I'm so proud of you, dude. Like,
thanks, man. It's a rough road. If anyone is thinking of getting into EMS and getting their ACP, being the top person,
so ACP, Advanced Care Paramedic, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
So that is 2 years long.
Okay.
Yeah, and so that's 2 years of no income because you don't get paid. You have to take a leave from work.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so most of us are older when we take this program too, because you've been working throughout your career to see if you can be that person too, because there's a lot of people that do stay as a PCP in their career and they love it. They're like, nope, I have less responsibility. I like this position. They enjoy it, and that's good for them. And some want to go up further, and like it doesn't change your hierarchy or anything like that in our job. It's just like, it's a personal growth. When you decide to do it. It does give you more lateral movements within EMS. So that's again a personal growth concept for yourself. And so if I want to give anyone suggestions or like a word of advice,
I love it.
Do not jump into it. Give yourself, be a PCP for a while.
Well, that was going to be my next question is, can you do like back to back to back? But
yes, you can.
So you can, but you're not recommending that. Okay. So love it.
We have this joke. We call it 0 to hero when you do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. 0 to hero. Yes.
0 to hero. And that's our little jab at people that do decide to do that, because there are some programs that have that, like Medicine Hat. Their program is that. It's 3 years of college. And when you're done, you are the advanced care, but you have not seen anything. Like you've done practicums and been on clinicals, but you've never been
in an ambulance. Yeah.
Yeah. You've never been, you're it. Everyone's staring at you of what to do.
Oh, and God.
Yeah, that's a big learning curve. But if you've been working on the ambulance for a couple of years, being a PCP, seeing your medic do things, seeing how they run the whole call, like they look back and see the whole big picture and not get tunnel vision.
Yes.
So if you do the 0 to hero kind of thing, I always use the analogy of like it's getting shot in the foot.
Yeah.
It's gonna hurt. Not gonna die from it, but you're gonna struggle for a little bit.
Totally. Well, and that struggle could be what makes or breaks somebody too, right?
Exactly.
Is if you all of a sudden get it thrown into a super traumatic call and you have really little experience, like those are the ones that imprint on people's brains and end up with PTSD and end up with second guessing. And especially if somebody, ends up passing away as a result of it, or, you're constantly playing that call in your head and thinking, what could I have done better? What could I have done better? And we do that as experienced officers, as experienced people, you replay it. I can't imagine, like when you said that, I was like, like, I wouldn't want to come out of school and be like, you're looking at me to know what to do. Like it was scary enough for me being 22 and walking onto a unit at a jail and being like, oh, all these people I have to lead and tell what to do. I hope they listen to me. Right? I can't imagine being like the person who's like, I'm just going to stick this needle in you that has this really potent medicine and hope that you live. Like, no, I'm good. I would have been like, I'm out. Can I opt out of participating, please? Thank you.
It is very nerve-wracking for sure. So that's why I always recommend at least be like a PCP, because you have to be a PCP before you can get into your advanced care.
Right.
Like you can't just go from EMR to ACP. You can't just like apply for ACP.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, it's a 2-year program and they do look at your high school marks.
Okay.
But thankfully they looked at me as a mature student.
Yes.
I wasn't the greatest high school kid. I enjoyed partying and playing rugby. And
yes.
Yeah.
You're like, and when you're in high school, you're like, I'm not thinking ahead to like when I want to be an adult with a career. No, I'm not thinking about that.
No. I want to go have fun.
Yes. I love it.
Thankfully, I was accepted. And so it's been pretty good. It's a rough road when you do decide that, because like I said, most of us have been working as a PCP for years. So when you're doing your practicums, you're at work unpaid. Because so
you're like, God damn it, I didn't like it that much when I was here getting paid. Now I'm here not getting paid.
And I paid to be here. I paid school to be here. Yeah. So it's like, oh, this is horrible. And I went to school during COVID. Oh man, was this a headache?
Wow. I didn't even think about that for you, dude. Oh my God. So mostly online learning.
Yes, our first semester was all on computer.
Oh my God. And in an industry where you basically have to be hands-on all the time. Holy. Tell me about that. Tell me about the challenges of that, because I didn't even think about that for you.
It was a learning curve, and not only for us as students, but as teachers. I couldn't imagine, because you can't read the class or the understanding what I'm explaining to them. So like our first semester was a lot of like, the book stuff, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
A&P, patho, pharmacology. But it was really hard to like ask questions because then all of a sudden the program would shut down on you and you're like, oh, or your computer shuts down, something freezes.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that battling. And like thankfully, like I've been around, so I was like, okay, I understood most of this stuff. So like I found it a little easier than some other people in my class where they were missing out on that experience. So they had a bit of a
Right.
rougher time.
Mm-hmm.
But then our second semester, we started actually going to NATE and doing lab days. But it would be
Okay.
like a half a day. We'd just go
Mm-hmm.
in, set up like an IV drip or practice intubating and stuff like that. Like we would have lab days,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the time it was half a day. You had to wear, of course, your mask, a face shield, like
Mm-hmm.
safety glasses. We're like, really? I'm like, there's only us here. Like it was a ghost town at NATE. It
Yeah.
was just us and then the respiratory therapists were there.
Y-
And they're all
Right.
like 18 because they're like fresh out of high school. So they
Yeah.
were terrified of us as we're all walking around talking about calls and stuff. Like, oopsies.
You're
Sorry,
like, let
kids.
me scar you with my battle
Yeah,
stories. Yeah.
yeah, they got away from us a little bit. And I was like, sorry, we're just very, very blunt because lunch hour, our conversations. Oh,
Oh,
as you know.
I know. Like you think to yourself, again, right? We talk about like when you're in a group of like first responders or people that you work with and you're eating lunch and you're talking about the grossest things. And you look around and everyone else that's at like the restaurant or like that's trying to eat lunch around you is like, you're like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, I guess that's not
yeah,
lunchtime conversation, is it? Oh,
yeah,
oh, you didn't find that funny? We thought it was hilarious. Ha, ha,
yeah.
ha.
As we're like in tears laughing so much.
Yes.
But that goes with like the whole humor side of our career. You have to have that,
Yes.
or you will be burnt out and can't do this career anymore.
Yeah.
If you can't find the ways to laugh at something that was just like, that's actually really messed up.
Yes.
However, that's taken me years too. Like I started actually seeing a trauma psychologist
Mhm.
after we started like, okay, this is something we need to look at. Like we're losing paramedics, we're losing police officers, we're losing sheriffs, everybody, fire, because we
Yeah.
weren't having that discussion about mental health.
Yeah.
And yes, it was not as known. Like there wasn't a lot of research behind it.
Mhm.
It takes someone taking that initiative. And unfortunately for EMS, what I think Switch was unfortunately one of our coworkers ended up taking his own life in our
Yeah.
station.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that just that hit everybody. If you kind of knew him, you did know him, or you knew him well, it hit everybody.
Yeah.
And we're all like, is this what's going to happen to us? Like, because he was
Yeah.
35-year medic, like he's been around for a long time.
Right.
Like, are we all going to get to this point where this happens to us? We all got pretty scared and pretty worried of
Yeah.
what's going to happen to our careers. So
Yeah.
that's when I found it didn't quite change right away. Like it took some steps, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Of
Takes a culture
actually,
shift too. Takes a culture shift of everybody realizing
yeah,
that it is needed, that
yeah,
because even you have one person that shits on it, is like, oh man, suck it up, like what's fucking wrong
yeah,
with you? One
right,
person like that will shut down 3 or 4 people who were just about
exactly,
ready to reach out, who were just about ready to say, you know what, yeah, like that call really did fuck me up, like,
yeah,
and I really do need to talk to somebody about it, or
yeah,
I need to just, and talk to somebody about it doesn't necessarily need to be a professional. I mean, obviously, probably best case scenario if it is a professional, but just
yeah,
even talking about it, like the amount of things that we've seen that you just, again, we talk about, it's normal to us. You go home
yeah,
and you're just like, yeah, that was just like that. You don't even, it doesn't even register to you that to like a non-law enforcement, non-first responder person, that would be
yeah,
like, that would shatter their day. They would be like,
yeah.
oh my fucking God, I saw this. And we're like, oh, like
Cool, man.
that was
Yeah,
like 10 to 11 a.m. today. Like at 2
yeah,
till, you should have seen what I saw at 2 to 3. Because oh my God, right? Like,
yeah,
and so
yeah,
we don't even, you just, that's just normal, right? And then
yeah,
those ones where you're like a 2 to 3, you're like, holy shit, I got to talk to somebody about this.
yeah.
So even just being able to talk to another coworker and be like, that was fucked up, right? Like you
Yeah,
thought that was fucked up. Okay, it wasn't just me.
cool.
Like,
Yeah,
but one person saying like, oh man, like what's the problem? Like you
yeah,
haven't seen that before? No, I haven't seen somebody's face kicked in to the point
yeah,
where there's blood and teeth everywhere.
yeah,
Sorry, that's the
yeah,
first time I've seen that. Thank you. Like,
yeah,
sorry, I'm having a
exactly.
little bit of trouble processing that.
Yeah,
Thanks. Right?
yeah, exactly. And
Mhm.
it's been nice to see. Like I've seen it in the last couple of years where you actually can have that conversation with your partner. Maybe you've never even worked with this person before.
Yeah.
And you can actually be like, hey man, how you doing? Like that call was a little messed up. You good? Yeah, I'm good. It was sad. But it is recognizing that these calls can be sad.
Yes.
And like actually acknowledging it has made a huge difference, even in my world too, where I'm like, nope, that's my job. That's my job.
Yeah.
I have to do it. And stop having that mentality and just saying like, nope, that was sad. And actually acknowledging that sucked. However, I was there for these family members. I was there for the patient. I'm glad I was able to do that. But just taking that time to be like, yeah, we were there. I was able to help. And then just having that conversation with your partner. And sometimes, yes, you need to go talk to a trauma psychologist, and definitely a trauma psychologist, because they are actually trained in understanding our careers.
Yes.
You don't have to like spend that hour explaining the job. And then you're like, oh, I didn't even get to talk about what was bothering me.
Yeah.
At least there's that. But it's amazing how much better we've gotten. It sucks what we had to go through to get to this point.
Yeah.
However, we're doing it. We have peer support now in EMS, and I'm a part of it. So I will go
good.
Yeah. So I go to debriefings. If like a crew did a crappy call, they'll call me and like, yeah, we need this. So it gives the crew time to not worry about getting a call or like, able to eat their food. And use a bathroom and like and actually eat their food at a table and not in their lap in the ambulance.
Yes, totally. I like that. I like that. So like, let's segue that into, so do you find, because obviously this is for females, we're talking about females in our careers. Do you find like, what are some of the things that you find are a benefit to being a female as a paramedic?
Ooh, there's a few actually.
Okay. Hit me.
Oh yeah. So the biggest one that comes to mind, which is horrible, I hate these calls, is sexually abused calls or sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
Those ones are hard because it is majority of females that are being sexually assaulted. Yes, there's still men out there too. But for some reason they do trust a female in the back. Female wants to trust the female. Because majority of the time, unfortunately, it is a man that assaults a female. So they don't want a male practitioner in the back. And I don't blame it. And the male practitioners, you're right. Yeah. Would you want a female in the back with you? Like whatever you need. And so that comes in handy a lot when we do these calls. And unfortunately, those calls do happen quite often. And you got to be there for a fellow female and help them out as best as you can. We're not going to fix everything, unfortunately. That is the worst thing you can possibly go through, I think. There's some other really crappy things out there in the world, but so that really does help being a female in this industry and going to those calls. Other ones, I have to say that I do think a lot of people do trust a female over a male, which I hate that. I think that's also a bit of a sexist thing, reversing the roles a little bit.
I agree.
Yeah, they do trust a female over a male sometimes. And even though like I have, my best friends are all guys and I trust them with my life. Like they know what they're doing. But there is that stereotypical kind of thing, unfortunately. But it does come in handy for me at times at work. And I'll use it. I'll use it to my advantage. I'm like,
for sure.
I get the job done and I help the patient out that needs my help. What else I can think of?
Do you find you bring like more compassion and more empathy or not?
Yes. No, I think I do. And we just can see more things, I guess. When we do get like a female call where it's like they're having like the worst period of their life or something, and they're having crazy cramping and stuff like that, where a male does not understand that at all. Like, okay, cool.
They're like, so your tummy hurts a little bit? You're like, my uterus has a Tyrannosaurus Rex inside of it, okay? It's not just a little bit of a tummy ache. Thank you.
Oh, can you just go get this and do this? And like, there's more to it, man. And then like, there is a lot behind it too, like, especially if you start having a lot of bleeding and stuff, or like it's very painful because there's other diagnoses you could actually get. So of course, a female is going to talk to another female when it comes to those calls, right? Or and again, ask you like when I get a call for abdominal pain, I'm like, hey, is it similar to like cramping, like period cramps? She's like, kind of, yeah. And it's like a guy would never ask that question. They'd be like, like they're like scared to ask the question because they don't know it enough. And then it flips the role too. If I go to a male patient that has something wrong with their genitalia, they're terrified to tell a female. They're like, I don't. So then that's when I'm like, hey, like if I have a male partner, I'm like, you're in, bud. We're switching roles. This is a you problem now.
This is a you problem.
Yeah, you get in there.
We used to do the same way. If you were strip searching an inmate, if it was a transgendered person, it was like, what do you have on the bottom? Okay, you're up, bud. Or, oh, Nikki, you're up. Okay.
Yeah. You have that conversation. It's quickly, and it just to keep to keep the dignity of your patient or subject or whatever terms you have for who you're dealing with.
Yeah.
And it's just to have that respect there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't see that we're trying to be respectful or
helpful.
Helpful. They still chirp us and they still get mad at us. Like, oh man, I tried.
Yeah.
So those are the biggest things I've noticed for being like the good parts of being a female in a uniform and being in first responder.
Yeah.
We all know the other side of being a female in being a first responder.
Yes.
It's interesting someday.
I do. I want to jump into that. I know we're going to be running out of time and I'm cognizant of our time, but I do want to jump on that. So like, what do you find is the biggest challenge as a female in your role? And like, how do you deal with it?
The biggest one is being able to lift a patient.
Okay.
And having, there's a lot of physical requirements for being a paramedic that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah.
You're carrying your kids up a flight of stairs. There's no elevators in some of these apartments. Your stretcher is heavy too.
Yeah.
Your monitor that we have, we take your vitals, that thing is like 40 pounds.
Yes.
And you got to carry that. And then once you're in the house, half the people don't take care of the places. And so now you're moving furniture everywhere. And unfortunately, sometimes your patients are in a bigger size. Mm-hmm. And they always fall in the most awkward areas possible.
Like wedge themselves between the toilet and the bathtub.
And the tub, you're like, awesome. And they're if they were just had a shower, just had a bath, they're wet, naked, and you're like, oh, this is gonna be fun trying to get you out. So a lot of times when we get those calls, a lot of the bystanders or the family are like, look at you like, oh, you're gonna be able to lift that because you're a female. They just like look at you. And I'm fortunate that I am like 6 foot and I am a solid female and I can lift.
Yes.
But there are females out there that are 5 foot nothing and like maybe 150 pounds, and they probably get more than I do. And I feel bad because I'm like, no, she can lift her own weight too. Like she's got this. And so we have to constantly be like, no, we're trained in how to do this. Like we know our limits. And like, yes, unfortunately, some days, yes, a male can probably deadlift more than I can. I'm well aware of that, but I also know I can deadlift pretty much every patient I have.
Yeah.
And different circumstances, yes, we might need extra help.
Yeah. And that's why you work in a team. That's why you work in a team too, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And we can always call for the fire department to come give us a hand because they have equipment that we just don't have on an ambulance. So they have more equipment, they have tools. Yes, there's always 6 on a fire truck, so they have more hands, but sometimes more hands doesn't help because you're in a tight space and you can't fit 10 people in a tiny little area, right? So that is really frustrating at times. I do get the woman driver quite a bit. I get that because we take turns driving. So a lot of people always think there's just one person that drives the ambulance. It's an old school term, is the ambulance driver.
Right.
And we hate it. Hate it with a passion. If anyone ever calls an ambulance, don't ever call us an ambulance driver. It is like
noted.
Just like, oh, your blood starts to boil when you hear that.
Yeah, that's like us in prison guard. Prison guard sends me into a rage. I'm like, I'm not a guard. Right. I'm not a fucking mall guard. I'm a correctional officer. Thank you.
It's officer. Right? And like, so we're like, no, we're paramedics. Okay. That's what we take turns driving. Like like you don't call a police officer a police car driver. Like,
right?
It's a police officer.
God. As soon as you said that, I'm like, no, we don't. That's stupid.
Right? So it's a paramedic, and you have drive days and attend days. And so I get a lot of chirps that are like, the patient will like, oh, who's driving? Like, oh, that's me today. Like, oh, woman driver. And I was like, oh, should I hit those curbs or should I not hit those curbs? So you have that inner battle.
You're like, because if I hit them, then they're going to be like, oh, it's because she's a woman. But if I don't hit them, like it would make me feel better if I just hit them and then you get a little jolty jolt.
So I have a really funny story when it comes to like women driver and women being able to lift a patient.
Okay.
And so this gentleman just had an angioplasty, which is they've had a heart attack or they have something in their heart that's being blocked, so clogged or something like that. So they go and get a test done to, like, they usually go through an artery, your femoral artery or your radial, and the doctor put a wire through to find this blockage, and they put a stent in if you need a stent, or they just observing it just to see why you're having these chest discomfort. He just had one in his femoral artery, which is, you can't sit up for about like an hour afterwards because you have a chance of messing that up and you bleed out because you're lifting up. It's very bad.
So lay down. So lay down.
Yeah. So you can only stay at a 45-degree angle after that procedure if they go through the femoral artery. And this gentleman was not listening to me. He is just on his phone and then telling his like buddy on the phone that I'm nagging him. And I'm like,
oh my gosh.
Sir,
you're like, I'm trying to save your life, sir. I'm trying to save your life.
Yeah.
Do you want to live today?
Yeah. And he's like, typical woman, just nagging me, nag. And I'm just like, on my partner, a male partner. And he's like, uh-oh. He's poking a bear. This is not going to be good. He's just back watching this go down. And I'm like, sir, you do realize you had a procedure that went through your artery. I'm like, if you miss up those stitches there, you will bleed out. I'm like, and then I have to put these 4 fingers and I have to jab them in where that site is, which is really close to your boys. And I am going to put a lot of pressure there and you're not going to like it. I'm like, it's going to be extremely uncomfortable for you. Whatever. And he's just giving me that kind of attitude.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I've told you a number of times, stop lifting your head, stop trying to sit up. You have to stay in this position.
Yeah.
So get him on our bed and onto our stretcher, and we're wheeling him out to the ambulance and go to put him in. And he's like, oh, can you even lift me? I was like, and he's like a 200-pound guy. He's tiny.
Yeah.
And
so I got you, bro.
Yeah. So I lifted, and and it was like back then with the old stretchers, it was you had to deadlift it basically.
Yeah.
To get the weight off the legs, so you can lift the legs up. Yeah. Lift it up, and he just I did it no problem, didn't break a sweat, and he just kind of looks at me, he's like, oh, you can lift. And then my partner's like, yeah, I would mess with her. Just saying.
just put it out there, bud.
Yeah. So get him in there, and he's still just being not ignorant, but just being that old school kind of guy, little chirps here and there.
Yeah. Just constant digs that you're just like, okay, roll your eyes. All right, buddy.
Yeah. Taking him back to his CCU. And so in the back, he's just like, man, we should get a Tim Hortons coffee right now. I got to get Tim's. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can't do that for you. I'm sorry, sir. And I was like, I wish I could, but we can't stop to get you a Tim's. You just had surgery.
Through the drive-through in the ambulance. We'll get 3, please. Yeah, one. The guy in the back wants one.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, but this guy's been just hitting me with chirps nonstop this whole call. And I've been with him for 15 minutes. And so finally I turned around to my partner who's he's driving. I was like, hey, partner, can you pass me my Tim Hortons coffee, please? So he's like, no problem, partner. Hands me my Tim Hortons coffee. I take a sip. I'm like, this is a delicious Tim Hortons coffee right now. And my patient just was starts laughing, and he's like, well played. And then after that, he loved me. We started talking about everything and just shooting the shit, played some old school country music. So he didn't think I would know who Ian Tyson was.
Oh my God.
And so I put all that music on. He's like, oh, you're pretty cool. And I was like, thanks, sir. Maybe you shouldn't chirp me so much when you first meet me.
Right? Don't judge a book by its cover, bud.
Yeah. That was too funny. I was like, I had to do it. I was like, it could be more professional in this moment, but I'm like, I read my room.
Yeah,
I knew this
totally.
Yeah,
well, and you know what? That is something as you were saying too, sometimes you have to use being a female to your advantage, right? And I feel like we do have that ability to kind of read the room a little bit better. I find, and again, not all guys, but most guys that are in a first responder career, we're A-type personalities. Most people are A-type personalities. But some guys can come in and it's I'm in the uniform, so I'm the boss. Doesn't matter what career it is. And it's Yeah, but did you read the room? Because like, just because you have that uniform on does not make you the boss in this room. Like, you need to read people. You need to be able to have that, like, what level of humor can I drop here? What level of respect do I need to show? What level of professionalism do I need to show? When can I just be, my typical self and crack off when I want to crack off, because
Yeah.
it's going to lighten it's going to lighten the mood, or it's going to, potentially have this person maybe be able to relate to me a little bit better, create a better rapport. So I think that as females, we have that ability a little bit better than men sometimes. Again, I've worked with some really, really great guys who read the room perfectly. And like, I'm trying not to be in stitches because I'm like, we have to remain professional here. Don't laugh, Nikki. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Don't laugh.
Yeah.
Right? Pull it together. Pull it together. Right.
That's the only good thing I've liked about wearing masks at work the last like 2.5 years, that I can like kind of smirk a bit and no one sees it.
Yeah, you just have to control your eyebrows to make sure your eyebrows aren't doing something. Yes, totally.
Right?
I love it. I love it. This has been awesome. Okay, well, I want to wrap us up because I know that you have it's your days off. It's gorgeous outside. You want to get outside, enjoy that weather. So I don't want to take up any more
Get
time.
some patio beers.
Yes, patio beers. That sounds delicious. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to hit you with 5 rapid fire questions. I want you to give me the first thing that comes to mind when I ask you. And some of them may be a little bit longer than like a 1-word answer, but some of them are really quick and easy. So, number 1, what is your favorite food or snack on shift?
Ooh, favorite? I'm going to have to say
Tim Hortons coffee.
Unfortunately, not anymore. My favorite food will probably have to be a burger.
A burger? Yes, because you can eat it with one hand while driving or writing. Yes, I like it. Okay. Number 2, what's the most uncomfortable thing that's ever happened to you on a shift?
Ooh, most uncomfortable. Okay, this is a good one. It's a story.
I love
Are you ready for it?
Yep, I'm ready.
Okay.
I actually
so we go
can't
to
wait.
this. Me and my partner both were like we didn't know what to say. Like, we actually were speechless. And the things, like, people say some things to us. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Oh,
like, I'm
well
sorry you feel like that. And like, but what came out of this patient's mouth, I was like, oh my God, like, what do I say to this?
Yes.
We get a call for an anaphylactic reaction to a bee sting.
Mm-hmm.
So we're up in there, and because those can be pretty dangerous, especially if it's a respiratory is being affected, because their throat can swell up fast. So we got to get in there really quickly. So we get there. Yeah, she's having an anaphylactic reaction. We gave her some epi. We're eventually going to give her some Benadryl and probably a steroid as well. So we get her in the back. We're doing our thing, getting her to the hospital. And we can tell that I think she's around 50, maybe a little older than that. And we're pulling into the hospital. And now it's like, she's much better. We're having a conversation, and she's covered in tattoos. We're like, sweet. And like, she can see that me and my partner both have tattoos as well. And she has this one on her chest, really close to her left breast. And I was like, okay. And she's like, yeah, this one, guy. She's like, whoa, I gotta tell you. So when I was getting it done, I almost came.
What?
Literally what she said to us. She almost got off by getting this tattoo really close to her left breast. And I was just like, oh my God. Me and my partner were both like, like, we needed like a solid 30 seconds and just like,
well, you're just I'm sorry, I just need a minute. I'm just going to check this piece of equipment over here because I need a hot damn minute.
I'm like, did she just say that to us? And I was like, oh my God. Like, we do this call, whatever, finish on, like give her to the staff, whatever, go back to the ambulance, and we just burst out laughing. We couldn't handle it. And to this day, this was like 6 years ago, this call, we will still bring up that call.
Oh,
and just
yes.
die
Those are,
laughing.
Yes, those are the best ones, right? When you could just look at each other and be like, bee sting.
Exactly. Like, it just how she said it too.
Yeah.
Like, you're like didn't say like a nice professional like yeah, I almost finished with this, or I almost had an orgasm, and I was like, no, I almost came. And I was like, what?
You have to like just stop and look at me like, she did just say that. Okay. Yeah, she said that.
Yeah.
She said that.
Yeah. So that was that situation.
I love it. That's a good one. That's a good day at work.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3. What is your favorite piece of equipment to use?
Ooh, favorite piece of equipment. I would have to say the stair chair.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Because it's
So we
super
actually
helpful.
have, yeah. So this device, it like folds up like kind of like a lawn chair, like when you
Mm-hmm.
go camping. So it's in the side of our ambulance, like in a side compartment, and we use it for getting patients down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
So it folds down into a chair. It has seat belts. It locks you in. It's great for certain situations with some certain patients so they can't walk down the stairs, or we don't want their heart rate going up too much, or their oxygen levels are too low and they're going to insert themselves. So
Yeah.
we will do the work for them. And they're not quite to the point where we have to physically carry them and put them on like a tarp kind of thing with handles and carry them out.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still quite conscious a bit. And
Yeah.
so we'll use it. And it has tracks on the back that we can pull out that just goes down the stairs. So we're not like going step by step by step. It has this track.
Yeah.
And it takes 2 people to do it. And it has like nice, good handles on it. It's still a little awkward using it. However, when you and your partner just are meshing well, man, does that thing work like a charm. And it's
That's
really good for
awesome.
going down the stairs. Going up, don't use it. Just carry the patient because it's too bulky.
Gotcha.
But it is a great piece of equipment. I love that thing.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay. What is number 4? What is a piece of advice you would give to someone who is looking to enter this career?
Do as many ride-alongs as you can. Unfortunately, right now because of COVID, we can't really do them. But once we can, try to find someone that is a paramedic. You can always reach out to you, Nikki, and then get my information. I will be more than happy to take on some people that are looking into this career.
Yes, we'll throw it in the show notes.
Yeah, and get your CPR, like your level CPR done, your first aid stuff done, and start volunteering. Volunteer as much as you can, because when you do try to apply and you get all your schooling done, they see that you volunteer. They look at that stuff, that you put in time that's unpaid because you're looking for that experience. So we look at that, and we're going to take you over somebody that doesn't have that volunteer time.
Yes.
Because it looks like you want this position.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to look at that. So volunteer as much as you can, go to events. The other one I'd advise is one of my biggest pet peeves in my career, maybe because I grew up without smartphones, is learn how to read an address.
Yes. Cool.
Learn how to read an address. Yes. Learn how to, someone gives you an address, figure out where this is, because there's tricks to read an address. You can,
especially in Edmonton.
Yeah. I find Edmonton very easy. Yes, there's some word names, and that's confusing for some people. So learn how to read an address. So when everyone knows computers fail. They crash all the time. And like our truck has a computer in the ambulance so that we can see where our call is. Yeah. And so you can get to there, but that thing crashes all the time. So now you have to figure out how to get there. And unfortunately, this generation that's coming up now only knows a smartphone. And how, I'll just put it into Google Maps. Or I'll just do this. And you don't see the bigger picture of how to get to a place. Yeah. Because all of a sudden that road's closed. You're like, oh, how do I get there now? I'm like, well, if you looked at the bigger picture and see every angle of how to get there, you can be like, oh, this road's closed. Okay, I'll go this way instead, and I'll come back around this way instead. Yes. But,
and to that end, there was a friend of mine whose kid was learning how to drive. And she was like, well, yeah, it's the place by the McDonald's. The McDonald's on the left, and then there's like the library's on the right, and you got to turn left. And her kid was like, what are you talking about? There's a McDonald's and a library. And she's like, what do you mean you don't know that we've driven this route like 1,000 times. But she realized because her kid sits in the passenger seat with his head down looking at his smartphone, he has never looked up to see the landmarks, to realize where things are, to be able to find his way around without Google mapping it, or without having to drive it the first time and realize like, oh, there's a McDonald's on the left. There's a, there's a light break. And when she said that, I was mind blown, but I realized I'm like, if you look in a car when you're driving, if you look over the passenger, regardless if it's a teenager or a young person, usually is on their phone with their head down, right? They're not looking, they're not seeing what's around them. They're not realizing that there's alternate ways to get to places. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Landmarks are huge. I grew up in Beaumont when it was a tiny town, not anymore. It's
the church at the top of the hill.
Yeah,
exactly. The church at the top of the hill.
Yeah, that's how it was all landmarks, all Bottomlands, like Longside Park. And so that's what I used when I got on the city. It was like I used landmarks And then I got to know the roads I was on, and I had a map booked, and I would like write down every nursing home I would go to, where the hospitals were, and I knew every angle to get there, because a lot of our calls are time-saving situations.
Yes.
So we need to get to that hospital. They need blood, they need surgery, they have a stroke, and they need medications for that. They need that CT, heart attack. There's a lot of our calls, you have to get to the hospital fast. And if you are not understanding how to get to a hospital, or you're relying on a computer to do it for you, you're going to get us lost, and you're going to lose that minute or 2 minutes. That could actually
literally
do
could
a
be
lot of
life or
things for the
death.
patient.
Yeah,
exactly.
And could be literally life or death. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the biggest thing I could do for anybody that's getting into this career. Start driving around. Start learning how to read an address. Don't rely on your phone to do it for you. Really get to know the city. That if you want to work in Edmonton, get to know Edmonton. If you want to work in Calgary, get to know Calgary, kind of thing.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Okay. Our last question, final rapid fire. What is the coolest location you've ever worked or had to go on a call to?
Ooh, every penthouse I've been in downtown.
Really?
I've been in a few. Yeah, I've been in a few.
Are they super swanky?
Oh yeah. And I'm just like, French doors opens up into the suite. I'm like, oh my God, I can fit my stretcher in here. I'm not like grabbing it in through a door. I'm like, I'm not a bull in China shop right now. I'm trying to get in here. Like I fit.
Like, this is amazing.
You're just like taken back by the view. You're like, oh my God. And you're like, your place is amazing. And like, this is awesome. And then I've gone to a few penthouse ones that were not well taken care of. You're like, oh my God, how do you afford this? And why are you treating it like this? I'm like,
you're like,
yourself.
Why are you wrecking this beautiful place by living like this? Oh my God.
Yeah, like stop it. And of course, any houses like in Glenora area by the river, anything by the river, there are some gorgeous houses in there. And you're also like, don't break anything.
like watch out for the knickknacks.
Like those things are like $1,000. So it's like, don't wreck anything.
You're like, these are not from Pottery Barn. These are very expensive, probably antiques. Do not wreck them.
Be careful.
I love it. That's awesome. This has been so great, girl. I am so glad that we got a chance to chat. We will definitely be having you on again, because there's I still have like probably 20 questions I want to ask you. There's so many things I want to talk to you about. So, but I know, get out there. I want you to enjoy that beautiful day, enjoy that beautiful weather. Thank you so much for coming on today, for joining me, for sharing your time, your energy, your stories. Like I said, if you guys want to get a hold of Sheila and you want to chat with her, I will put our information in the show notes. You can get a hold of us and ask those questions. Anything else you want to say to anybody that's listening before we kind of sign off?
All I would say is like, any female that's in any form, keep going. It's awesome. I love seeing you guys, and we have that automatic friendship. Let's look after each other. Let's be there for each other, and just keep doing what you're doing. And love it.
I love it too. I love it. That is a fantastic way to end the show. All right, girl. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care of yourself, and we will chat again soon.
All right.
Well, that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for listening, tuning in, and sharing your time and energy with us. Make sure you check out our next episode starring another badass female first responder on Apple, Spotify, or TuneIn. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Blue Line Fitness Testing. Stay safe and keep your head on a swivel.